Morning. Thank you guys for being here. Obviously, great to be back home and get a win versus a very good North Texas team. You look at that game and you kind of go through the ebbs and flows. Obviously, the first 8 plays, North Texas scored 21 points. And then you kind of look at it and say from play 9 to play 69, they didn't score another touchdown. So kind of like the defense settled in and found a way to play like they're capable, and certainly found a way to handle our business and play better football. And then offensively, there's actually five drives straight from the second quarter into the third quarter, right where we went 3 and out. And so just finding ways to capitalize on that and be better with our execution would certainly be what we need to do. But it was all said and done, found a way to come away with a win, and obviously a tough North Texas team with the same record as us. So to be able to get that win in conference is huge. Obviously very, very excited to return home and stay home again for another week for homecoming. Pleased to also hear I just found out about the flash ticket sale for $11 tickets, all right, for this homecoming game to kind of commemorate and talk about our 11 straight seasons of bowl games and going the opportunity. So I think that's huge. Pleased that we're able to do that. Hopefully we get a lot of our fans to show up. Should be a beautiful Saturday morning and afternoon, and we're going to need them to come out and support us. Charlotte's a much improved team. They have 71 total new players, so certainly some new faces from last year. They've already exceeded their expectations in what they've done the past couple of years. They have an All-American kick returner who is second in the country with over 500 return yards. They have 7 interceptions as a defense versus Navy last week. They ran for over 200 yards. And versus their win versus East Carolina, they ran for 311 yards. So they're talented. We're going to have to bring our A game, and we know for us it's having a great week of preparation and make sure we're prepared for a tough Charlotte team coming into our place. But excited for the homecoming, the festivities that come with it. Generally we don't partake in much of them, but pleased and hopefully we have a wonderful crowd.
Ryan, what do you think the difference was against USF when you started fast and the offense stalled? The offense never got it back, and in this game, after those 5 straight punts, the offense got it going again.
Yeah, that's you study that and you look, okay, as a self-scout, is there something that's got to get us back on track? And even during those 5 3 and outs, a lot of them, a couple drops here or there, a missed block, things of that nature. And you say, well, what happens if we had that, if Rock caught that long pass? Probably a wholly different, totally different story. Had we not had a missed assignment on a zone blocking scheme that we had practiced and been prepared for, had we maybe put ourselves in better play calling. So sometimes it's just saying, okay, you try not to worry about momentum, but when you're dealing with 18 to 23-year-olds, as we said, that's a real thing. And I think our guys kind of just said the same deal. Okay, we're capable. Let's get this. Obviously Mario able to break some runs, certainly gets the thing going. But I don't think there's one thing in particular. Like I mentioned post-game, it's not like we can sit there and say, well, this one position didn't do their job, and that's why. I think it was a variety of different things offensively where we didn't execute. And when it was all said and done, I think the execution level wasn't need to be where it needed. Obviously, those are good things to talk about when you put up that many points. That we're capable of so much more.
And then you made the change to Vandenberg at the field goal position. Are you going to continue with that moving forward?
I think so. I think, Tristan obviously has done a phenomenal job on kickoffs, and we need him to continue to do that. And then just be able to put faith and Costa's done a good job. We know he's capable. Certainly I've seen him do it in practice and other games and in a pregame. But, like I tell our guys, we're in a results business. And I think Tristan probably gives us the best opportunity at this time to go out there and be our field goal kicker.
What was it from play 9 to 69 defensively? An adjustment that righted your ship on that side?
I think you go back and look at it, Dave. I think first and foremost we had 19 missed tackles again that game. And, that was kind of very similar to the Navy game where we had that many missed tackles and then poor angles. And when we talk about what occurred in between those, really the transitions, like even the very first play, and credit to North Texas, credit to number 10, phenomenal player. We were in the right spot. We didn't get off a block, right? And we didn't transition. We took poor angles. Second play, same deal on the bootleg pass. And so you go back and those are things, thank goodness those are fixable. And certainly, like I always say, we will always put it back on us as a coaching staff. Jordan Haynes would be the first to say I could have maybe put us in a better play call. But most of the time we're not always going to have the perfect play call. We just got to go out and take proper angles and tackle better. And so, kind of looking at that, saying like we talked about with the offense, Dave, things from the self-scout standpoint, that those are fixable things. But reality, when it all comes down to it, is taking better angles for our tackling and transitioning in and out of things. And, and I mentioned to all of our guys, we got to do a better job getting off blocks. Something we talk about, preach about, but clearly we need to do a better job during the week so it shows up on Saturdays.
I know the feeling on a macro level is you're happy that you won the game. When you break it down more micro level, are you happier with the offensive performance or more upset with the defensive performance?
Yeah, look, I say this every year, right? Like, wins are really hard to come by, and I tell our team that all the time. Like, and it's funny, Matt. It's been good on Sunday mornings when I meet with our staff. I can say, man, it's really good to have. I go through like a long list. Like, I read off an hour of like things, everything from pregame meal to Friday afternoon, like all the way through till I left the locker room and got home that night. Of things that occurred in that weekend. I said it's really fun to be able to come in here and be pissed off about 100 things and a win. I said let's do this the rest of the season. And as a head coach, sometimes you almost find more relief than you do in the wins than you do as enjoyment, which is sad. But I think that's kind of the nature of this beast that we're going through right now. Look, pleased with what the offense was able to do at parts. But I can say that 5-series lull, that's very disappointing because I know we're capable. And then defensively, obviously extremely disappointed, for the first 2 plays, right? Look, we knew North Texas is explosive. Someone had told me they're, the team that's second to us in 20-plus point games streak going. Coach Morris has done a phenomenal job there, and they got some really, really good talent. That quarterback's really special. All that being said, disappointed probably more with what we're capable of doing on defense and not being able to capitalize on it. Again, like I said, the great news is our guys sat there and said, okay, we're able to do that. We're able to go take better angles, tackle better, and put ourselves in better situations and positions to go out there and execute at a higher level. And then the fact we got it solved, right? Everybody's like, oh, well, the fans love a good shootout. Well, I don't. Heart attack city. But found a way when it was all said and done, Matt, and that's the key. Like I said, some games the offense is going to carry, some games the defense is going to carry, some games special teams. Reality, I'd love to just play a clean football game in all 4 quarters with all 3 phases. But that's very, very hard to do.
Coach, with the way Mario was running the ball, with the clean pocket that Ryan had, did this offensive line grade out maybe the best game this year?
They did some nice things, I think that, one of the things we saw was it wasn't as much pressure as we'd seen in the past. But again, I don't know if this is the MO, and teams are going to try to drop 8 on us and say, okay, hey, hand the ball off. And if we can do so, obviously it allows Mario to have a combined over 200 yards, of success, whether there's even the 3-yard catches for checkdowns. But I thought the offensive line did some good things, but they'll be the first to tell you again that there's room for improvement. But that's part of it. We obviously made the change at right tackle, but that doesn't mean Keydrell Lewis won't still be an important part of what we're going to do offensively. But I just think, as the season goes on, you continue to gel. We got so fortunate forever. We had a guy, Jacob Likes, a 3-year starter at center in the years past. We had different guys that played a lot of football. With the way transfers work, and you bring in a transfer center that wasn't even part of the spring. So, like, now I think, even him's getting a better understanding of the calls and the tags and all those things. So that's hugely important. So, but I was pleased with the offensive line, and they know they can even play better.
Right. Speaking of handing the ball off, what's the status of BT, Brandon Thomas, and how is DeRozier?
Yep, absolutely. So, Brandon, we expect to be able to go. He's a tough sucker. Obviously, that's the second game in a row that he's had to come out of. But the expectation is that Brandon Thomas can play, and then Greg DeRozier. We'll see. He's at the doctor now, but I think we're getting really close. And so, whether it's this game or next, I feel like he's getting a lot closer, and I do feel like there's a good chance he'll be out there in practice in some form or fashion this week.
So has he been able to do any kind of running with the team? With
Yes.
his shoulder?
Yep, he has been. So, but I think we'll be. Hopefully, he's what does a full participant in practice look like? I'm not sitting here. I've seen a lot of these head coaches just completely blatantly lie to their local media. I'm not going to do that, especially to a legend like you. I got too much respect for you. And it makes it like I watch other head coaches press conference and they'll just lie to their local media and no big deal. Like I think he'll be a better participant in practice. To what extent, I don't know. So, but excited. I certainly do plan for Greg to be back in some form or fashion this season, sooner than later.
So the penalty that Greg got called for on Saturday, I know like the Minnesota game earlier this year when that happened, they said on the broadcast that was like an emphasis this year. Is that something that they talked to you about like before the season, and did they give you an explanation?
Yeah, so look, I think first and foremost, we actually, and I told our guys, there's two things that really drive me crazy as a head coach, right? Lazy effort, and that doesn't matter if it's a grad assistant doing schoolwork, if that's a player doing what they're supposed to, lazy effort on the field, all those things. And then things that are a direct reflection of our culture, okay? And so we had actually showed them the Minnesota penalty. And actually the player in the press conference laughing about, oh, brandishing a weapon, I don't even know what that is. And so I showed our team, I said, this is not what we do. Obviously it's a point of emphasis. The officials have mentioned that. And then we go out and make a silly mistake like that, and it's stupid. I had very strong words for Greg in front of the team, and he understood again. But anything that's a direct reflection on our culture, shame on me. I've got to do a better job. Clearly, the message didn't get across that this is something that's not acceptable within our program, certainly within college football. And so, I was hoping I didn't see anything on TV copy, didn't see anything on. We have 4 different camera angles there, but regardless, they called it, and so that's inexcusable. And Greg was remorseful, and he's just such a smart, bright young man that knows better than that, regardless of how limited the action may have been. Enough for the referee to throw the flag, and it's something we got to continue to learn from. We always show them, and I've told you guys, I'm always trying to show them examples of other people making mistakes so we don't do it, right? Like I showed them the Jay Cutler DUI. Like, guys, there's no reason for any of us to go out there and get in any trouble. Like, there's no reason, okay? Then, we show them players dropping the ball, the UCF young man that dropped the football right before going, they probably could have won the game versus Iowa State, and said, now, I can show it and it's my job, but guess what? Reality of it, it better show up on Saturdays. And so if it's not, then maybe I got to do a better way of teaching different things with all lessons within our program.
Did they tell you before, like the reps before the season? Because that's something that like you've done in the past and they haven't called it, right? And then this year it's being called. Is that like they tell
Yeah, I mean, even in the first couple games, it was. I mean, and look, credit to Navy. I mean, Navy did it the entire game versus us. But it wasn't called one time, and I'm sure we did in that game as well. It's something. There's new celebrations, right? Like I think there's the seatbelt one. Like they teach me what these things mean. Like, when a DB makes a good play, it's like a lockdown seatbelt. Well, how long before that gets? So I made the comment. I said, let's pretend like we're in the 1700s and all pull out like swords and like, but that could be considered a dangerous weapon as well. So like I was like, maybe we can do like nunchucks. Like that would be cool. But I don't know, maybe a ninja star. I don't know. Reality of it is, if we can't be doing anything, especially if the NCAA it says it's banned. But I just, like I said, with everything, and I think every coach wants just what is it going to look like? Are different crews calling different things? Because I can show you examples for our first few games where it wasn't a major point of emphasis. I think the Minnesota one brought it to light where everybody said, "Wait a second, what's that term? What's that call?" And, like I said, we did show our guys, because that was the first time I had seen a flag thrown for that. We'd shown them where the young man at South Carolina, was showing an automatic weapon. I said, well, that's a little outrageous. We can't, certainly, but you have different signals for different things. So, a couple years ago, the cutthroat was banned, and I get that. So, now that the kids are doing the whatever that is, I don't know, and if it means something derogatory, I'm sorry. And so, just trying to learn. At some point, we'll celebrate, and that'll be it. The handshake and the bow, and we'll go about our business. So.
What's the scouting report on Malachi Freeman? What does he do well, and what made you feel comfortable putting him in the game?
Yeah, it's hard to play young O-linemen this day and age, but Malachi's a guy you got to remember. We lost our starting left tackle and our starting right guard before the bowl game, right? They both opted for what they considered to go play somewhere else. And so Malachi got the first start of his career in the bowl game versus Iowa State and did a really nice job for a true freshman. Now he's a redshirt freshman, and I think he did some really good things. But like a lot of things, the more you get to play, especially up front, the more comfortable he'll get. So he did some nice things. He made some mistakes, but he's big, he's powerful, He gets it. He plays hard. There's a couple times he had some nice pancake blocks. He plays physical, and he cares about it. So I think for him, continue to grow. He's certainly not a finished product, just like any of our guys on this team, but much less a young offensive lineman. But I think he has a very, very bright future here.
Ryan, I know you don't like to single out players, but Mario, obviously you recruited him because of his talent on the field. Has he almost exceeded expectations of what you thought he could do with his team?
No, not at all. I think not a single person in our program has exceeded expectations. And I mention this all the time, and it's not to sound corny by any stretch of measures. Like, the expectations are through the damn roof for us, and the standards of what we want for ourselves is through the roof. It starts with me. I've got to be better, and I demand more of our entire staff, of myself, of our players. So Mario's done some really nice things on the field, but we need more, and he'll be the first to tell you. Like, I'll show him, and he can sit there and smile and say, "No, you missed that hole right there. You missed that. You should have made that." And it humbles us all pretty quickly because there's room for improvement, certainly. And he knows that. And that's, again, like I keep saying, the one thing I really appreciate about this group is they're sitting there saying, okay, yeah, we could be so much better, right? Whether it's the 5 plays of 3 and out, right? Whether the first 2 plays of the game, like, and it's a lot easier to talk about and demand more when you're winning football games. But yeah, the expectations, we had high hopes for him. And he's done some really, really good things, so I'm not trying to minimize that, but we got a lot of football left, and he's got to continue to play at a better level.
Going back
Just
to the
follow up on that, I know you mentioned it briefly on Saturday, but obviously last week we stood right here and we talked about Mara and what happened off the field, and he said obviously really disappointed in his actions. What impressed you about his character and just kind of the way he approached last week to then go out and have that performance after all the talk negatively about him?
Yeah, absolutely, and it's kind of like we mentioned, is learn from the mistake, okay? Own it, because if a young man can't own it, then we've got to find better ways to educate and realize what a terrible mistake he made. And I also mentioned, like, the education of everybody within our program that this is something that we don't stand for. Now, put your head down, keep your mouth quiet, and go work. And he put in a great week of work, and it started with great Tuesday practice, great film prep, taking care of his body, dialed in meetings, bright-eyed, taking notes, and to sit there and say, okay, I did something I shouldn't have. Okay, I got to move past it myself. I got to learn from it and we talk about having the blinders on and being immensely focused on the task at hand, and then to go out there and perform that way, that's huge. And guess what? Now we need him to have a performance on the field again and again and again. And I think that's the same for all of our guys, whether it's a Greg Rubin mistake or if a guy had a bad game. And what we've tried to get him to do is, even if it's one bad play, let's try to forget about that play, learn from it, and move on. And so I think our guys, for the most part, have done a nice job of saying, okay, here's the things that have occurred. How do I refocus? And you guys hear me talk almost every week how hard it is for 18 to 23-year-olds to focus. And every week it brings its own new brand season. So what I try to get them to do is, okay, learn the good and the bad from the North Texas week. Everything that occurred in that week, whether it was a life lesson, right? Whether it was a scheme, whether it was an angle, whatever it may have been, an individual drill. Okay, learn from that. All right. Oh, by the way, guys, it's a brand new season now. We got Charlotte. And I think part of it's the amount of work they put in, the amount of work the staff puts into. The focus has to be 100% on Charlotte. And so, credit to the guys. I mean, I don't know if at that age if I had that wherewithal and that focus level to do what they're doing, and I'm really, really proud of him and the rest of the young men.
Going back to this game last year, this Hassan Wilson guy who had like 10 carries the entire season going into the game, rips off 198, 3 touchdowns. One, had you ever experienced something like that before where this guy just comes out of nowhere and has this enormous game? And 2, looking ahead to this week, does that put you on alert for some guys maybe down the depth chart? Keep an eye on that.
Yeah, has that ever happened? You never want to be that team that makes somebody else famous, right? Like, hey, we're going to be on this guy's highlight loop for the rest of his career. I'm sure I have. You coach enough football, there's going to be somebody that's like, who the heck did, how did we make Matt Castle famous? Like, what the heck happened? How did this happen, right? Like, who's this Tom Brady guy that just came in for a hurt Drew Bledsoe? Like, he's a clown. There's no way he'll be any. Oh my gosh, he just lit us up. Yes, that happens, but you go back to that game, and I think our players understand we're going to get everybody's best for 4 quarters. And we went down there, and we didn't play our best football, and it obviously went to an overtime game, and we couldn't stop the run. We did a very, very poor job defensively in that game, and all 3 phases. But certainly, their running back ran all over us. They lined up and just said, we're more physical than you. And that night, they proved that they could run the football on us. And so we've got to go. And I think our guys are always going to be high alert. And that's the one thing is like, okay, guys, we don't take anybody lightly. We got to go out there and have a great week of preparation. But, yeah, we don't like making guys that nobody, hadn't been on the scene, if you will, for lack of a better term. We don't like to be that team that says, oh, this is their coming out party. So.
How much more physical do you think you are this year than last year?
And I've mentioned, I think said this a couple weeks ago. I got a lot of credit for all these coaches that we face, and it. Sometimes you never know if somebody's just saying, hey, everybody always tells you, hey, you're doing a great job. Like, whatever, that's great. But like when Mike Norvell told me, Ryan, I've never seen a Memphis team play this hard, and that's a guy who I've got immense amount of respect for, and, who coached here, who could have easily just said, hey, good to see you, brother. Like, I've never seen a Memphis team play that hard. And then to have the head coach at North Texas, like, you got talent, but man, those guys, your team is playing really, really hard and really, really physical. Like I say all along, like, that's the greatest compliment you could ever pay me. Like, don't tell me we have a bunch of talent, because that means we recruit well and all that other. Like, to hear that our guys play really hard and are physical, cool. Maybe we're doing something right within our program. And so I do think we're a more physical bunch, but it's judged week to week, right? Are you willing to go out there and line up, play and play out, and play a physical brand of football? That doesn't always mean run the ball down people's throats, but willing to tackle. And obviously we had some poor tackles and missed angles, but I think this team has a tougher mindset. I think physicality always comes down to how tough you are up here initially, and then can you go out there and put it on display. So I do think we have a more physical ball club. I do think we're mentally tougher. We're more mature. But guess what? That's a challenge every week to make sure that stays at an absolute high level.
Ryan, but one or two more.
We saw DJ play a lot. DJ Bell, was that something with Kobe? Was he injured, or just game plan thing? How do you think he did?
Combination. I mean, we've rotated our corners in the past. We've even seen Julian Barnett go in there. Julian's the one that knocked down the ball the last play of the game at Florida State. So, we play a variety of different guys. DJ did some good things. He got the holding penalty where he tugged on the guy's shirt. But he's a long athlete, and even on that 4th and extra long, I don't want to know the exact down distance, where he goes up to try to pick it on the 45-yard pass, he could have just knocked it down. And he goes to try to pick it. I was upset with him. I said, man, you could knock that down. Now the offense has the ball on the 45-yard line, totally different ball game. Instead, it comes down to you both caught it. Ty's going to go to the wide receiver, but he's doing some good things. Obviously, he continues to have a good role in special teams for us, but he's a young corner that we continue to have high hopes for as well.
Kobe's fine, or is he?
Yeah, he should be.
Coach, because Charlotte has so much new talent, do you end up throwing away last year's tape, or how do you value that?
So schematically, you look at who the coordinators are, like I do every year. So if it was all new coordinators and staff, then yeah, you kind of, last year's tape doesn't have much merit. But what you do is you try to see schematically, are they still doing the same thing? So I'm watching all their film from last year because it's the same defense coordinator, right? And so then you'll watch the same, just to kind of get a feel for it. Now, what you do is then you focus on who are the 5 teams that are most like us this year and try to study that to have a better understanding. That's kind of one of the things we do week in, week out. We don't want to leave any tape unwatched. But personnel-wise, it is a different team than it was last year.
Coach, one more thing. Chandler Martin, what else can he do for you? And is he a part of the mental and physical toughness of this?
Yeah, Chandler is just playing at an all-time high. And I think before that, you think about he's our only underclassman that's a captain. And so what he means to this team as far as leadership, the way he shows up and does what he's supposed to every single week has been tremendous. And then, to sit there and say, okay, not only that, he's playing at an extremely high level. I mean, you look at the pick at the end, the fumble recoveries, the forced fumbles. He's got a knack for the ball. I think he had 10 tackles again. He's just been absolutely phenomenal. And what my favorite thing, I probably shouldn't say this to the media, but one of my favorite things about Chandler, his parents are awesome, and his mom has a crown that she wears, and it's got the D and the fence on it. And post-game, she had the defense crown on it. I may wear that on the sideline. Maybe I can get her to make me one. So, you always appreciate parents that are into the game. But Chandler's been an absolute wonderful contributor to our team in so many facets.
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, guys.